You are a reflection of the 5 closest people to you. Can you surround yourself with the right people? I think it's a hard truth when you look around and those people may not be the fit to take you to the next level. So really just surrounding yourself with people that will not only challenge you, but be there in the thick of it and get you to where you want to go.
Welcome to the Business Builder Way podcast, where we help business builders grow leadership skills and wisdom and stay grounded through hero stories. So let's get after it. Welcome, Kim Kelty, to the Business Builder Way. You're a repeat guest. We appreciate that. And this season, we are working to create shorter episodes so that people that are considering joining can learn about who you are and what you're up to. And also when people join, they can get to know you more rapidly. So it's your story. It's your time. Can you just share with us who you are and why you're here?
Yeah. So I'm Kim Kelty. I'm originally outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I reside outside of Denver, Colorado. And I started my business in 2019 off of a whim, in the sense I was actually getting ready to prep for more of like a interview process. And through that process with a career coach, I realized, I want to start on my own. I don't want to do another interview again. The irony is I do a ton of interviews with all of my clients. And so at first I led with my strong suit where I was doing social media management. So I did that for about a year and a half. And then someone emailed me and said, "Hey, do you do branding?" And I said, yes. And that's where it really did start to come. And so I started to look at branding at first. It's like, well, there's digital in the sense of social media, email, and all of your digital footprint. So I started to really dive deeper into what branding could be for small business owners and entrepreneurs. And then I had always known how to do podcasting, but it was just something that I was actually doing for free because I loved the platform so much. But then I would say about a year and a half, thanks to you and Business Builder Way, I started to actually make it a service. So I am a branding consultant and podcast producer. And it's crazy where that evolved from, because I have an event planning background. But I did work for a gentleman for 4 years. And I always tell people that was my 4-year degree in digital marketing. And we helped specifically people in the fitness industry with brick and mortars get online. So the rest is history, and it's really great. And it's a true testament that you can build it as you go. And I felt confident that I could always provide a service. It's just a matter of, okay, let's not take it up a step and be able to be in the trenches with them and create the digital footprint that everyone needs. So
Great. And you have some contract employees now?
Yeah. So
sure about that.
I was actually just talking about this the other day. Someone's like, "Oh, when are you going to start bringing on people to help you out?" And I said, I have. But it's been really cool in the sense that they're not employees yet, contractors. And I say yet because I think the dynamic that I have now, it does help to have the contractors coming out. So I have a graphic designer, a video editor, a podcast editor, and then a virtual assistant to help me kind of with more of the business structure. And what I started seeing is because I was able to do all of those, but specifically graphic design, I was like, that was self-taught. Like now we have Canva, self-taught platforms that you can really do really well with that. So like, I want to share that because you can empower yourself to do these things without having a degree in it. My degree was in sports management. But I started to see over time, not only did I want to help more people, I knew people were doing it at a better level. And what also really kind of strike me to want to have contractors on is that one of the top 3 reasons I wanted to go out on my own was not to become a boss, but to be able to provide work that people feel valued on a monetizing level, but also in just like a work environment level. That's something that I didn't always have. And I think that's pretty typical for a lot of people. And so that was a really big driver to kind of connect those. And yeah, it's been fun. I continue to want to expand. So
some of our business builders have businesses where it's more that the people they're serving are local, like landscapers or plumbing and or heating and air conditioning or funeral home. We have a diverse group of people. In your case, you are somebody that other business builders you didn't join the group because of this, but other business builders have hired you because
Yeah.
naturally they hear you start talking and you're helping them. And somebody who's listening might want to work with you.
Yeah.
So how do people get in touch with you? I'm going to ask you in the beginning rather than wait till the end, just in
Yeah.
case anybody wants to explore your work and what you do.
I always tell people to go to my website, kind of get a feel of that. So it's Kim Kelty, so Kelty as in Tom, Y .com. And or just reach out to me via email. So got Kim at kimkelty.com. So there's a consultation on there, and I'm really passionate about the consultation. I want to share why, because I want to make sure it's a fit for both of us. One of the things that I've learned prior to going out on my own is that I really value an ROI, a return on investment, in all aspects. A working relationship is specifically one. And then, of course, the service that we can provide. So one of the things that I share is that let's just get on a call. Let's have a conversation. Let's see where you're at. Because branding consultant is not, it's not to say that it's not typical, but it's still something we're like, well, do I even really need this? Does it seem like an extra service? Versus before, when I was doing full-blown social media management, that was tangible. People understood that. But when they kind of get on the conversation and hear kind of the bits and pieces of where they're currently at, where they want to go, I can help fill in the holes. And sometimes I'm not the person to fill in that hole, but because I know a lot of people in the industry, I make sure to consult out or recommend out. So yeah, I mean, that first consultation is huge. I sometimes do 2 to 3 of those calls just to kind of make sure it makes sense. I actually learned that from you through your process, where we had, our first call, and it was really great to get to know you. And then the second call was all about really kind of dreaming and where's this going to really, how can I use your services to be implemented into my business? And I like to take the process a little bit slower. Then I always say to people, yes, I could definitely sell you on this today, but let's make sure this is a fit. And so, yeah, that's the best way to reach out.
Yeah, well, you're as much a coach like I am as you are a consultant. So that process for coaching works well in that people get to experience you and your questions, and it helps them think with you with a thinking partner in a way that they couldn't think on their own. That phrase of let's make sure it's a fit for both of you, I will say, like, that's been overused by certain people who tend to waste your time doing some kind of call where it's not really that they're trying to explore whether it's a fit. That's just their way of soft stepping, trying to do a sales call and pitch you that what they have is perfect for your needs. But with coaches, and with you doing the type of work that you do, it makes absolute sense that there's this two-way exploration and people can feel, are you the person to help them in an ongoing way?
You bring up a solid point. I would agree. Like, and if that phrase wasn't genuine for me, I would be working with people that weren't in alignment. And it's not to say it's right, wrong, or indifferent versus it's so personal. Like, I do personal branding. There is no ifs and buts around it. And I would humbly say my superpowers is that I create a space for someone to be able to share and brain dump whatever they want in their business, in their personal life, and how can we create it to make sense for putting it out there digitally. Because one of the things I say is that I'm taking the in-person you and sharing that digitally, not the other way around, where if it happened in person, it's viable to go online. It doesn't mean that everything you ate that day and your deepest, darkest secrets have to go online. I take care of that. But at the same time, it helps kind of have a meter of where to go. And so to your point, we have to not immediately, but over time need to trust each other. And for me, it's a huge energy output for me. I love it. Like 100%. I audit my energy and time based off of it. And I feel lucky that I've only had a handful in the last 4.5 years that weren't a fit. Vice versa. I wasn't a fit for them or they weren't for me. And it made me learn and put in different systems in. And again, not right, wrong, or indifferent versus it's just a synergy. So, yeah.
You may not be able to talk about all of them, but who are some of the types of people and business owners that you've done podcast and personal branding for?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started, I was in the fitness industry for a while. So I thought it was going to be all fitness people and people in the mental health space. And I have some of them. I have an amazing performance psychologist that I work with. But I started to actually go to a different end, which was, if you know me and I get to know me, like I'm quirky, I'm kind of like silly, all the things. I can read a room though. I can definitely read a room. But at the same time, I didn't think I would kind of swing to the other pendulum where it was a lot of professional firms. So, and that's been my sweet spot. I love it. I love being able to work with people in an industry that I don't necessarily know a lot about. So I don't know the knowledge and the education about, but I do know how to kind of bring that out of them. So financial planning industries, employee health benefit firms, human resources, and I was working with someone in the promotional products industry. And then I do have some coaches, a few coaches that I work with. So that's been really good to kind of launch their kind of one, identify what their brand services are, be able to launch with their website, their messaging, and everything like that. So yeah, it's been an array, but if I say one that I've seen a lot more, it's been more professional firms that I love. I mean, I love working with them all, but that was a surprise for me.
Well, and those are people to whom being on Instagram or LinkedIn and letting their personality come out might not come as naturally. So you're
Yeah.
probably a great coach for those people.
Yeah. And that's the hardest thing because specifically LinkedIn, for an example, when it started, it was only a platform to network and look for a job. It's still, that is a part of it. But now, yes, it's networking, but it's also a platform that we can share our personality, the pulse behind our brand. And this, I'm saying something that you've heard a million times is that there's a million financial planners, there's a million people, there's a million coaches, there's all these things, but what makes you different? What makes the pulse behind your brand to have a synergy with that other person? So that's my biggest thing. Like, how can we bring the pulse of your brand to life? And the way that I do it is I meet someone where they're at. So if someone that is extremely polished professional has never been online, but know they want to, I look at that and I look at it as, okay, how often are we going to show up? So there's a quantity piece. And then what's the style of messaging we're going to do now? And it's always surprised me the evolution, because it doesn't make sense for me to come to a client that's never posted and say, hey, we should talk about your origin story and how your daughter is the reason why we did X, Y, and Z in this. And this is why you have so much passion in doing X, Y, and Z there. It's just not realistic. And I look at it as more like a longevity plan of bringing that pulse to life. And so one of my favorite examples is that, more educational coming out, which is totally a good kind of avenue. So I talk about the 3 E's in digital is educate, entertain, and empower. Typically people are really good with the educate because you can talk about your business, you can talk the nuts and bolts, all those things. But when they shift to more of like that entertain, it doesn't have to be haha, very funny, but then that empowering thing. So I have a client that we're working on a series of like parallel parking. And this has nothing to do with what he does in his business, but he has this like really great overlook in the city he's in. And the parallel parking is awful in front of his building. And so we actually was able to put the educate and then the entertain together. We're putting it to a service to kind of the funniness of the awful parallel parking. And people say, well, why would we do that? Well, it's interesting. People want to engage in those kind of things. And then you start to have this top of mind or that subconscious thing of like, that was really funny that he did that, or I saw that you did this. So that's a whole nother end of the spectrum, but it's fun.
Yeah, got it. So I just want to do a little bit of the work that you do in case anybody wants to seek out your services. Now, when it comes to business building and being part of the business builders group, so I just was describing to a person that I did a podcast with that building a business is a little bit like my daughter's an artist, and you've got a canvas and you've got a palette of paints, Kim, and of course, like on your paints or in the picture are also life things. They might be off on the edge or something, but it's like you're painting, you're creating this business, and all the other things are going on in your life too, which we can't completely separate. But could you tell us here in September of 2023, what is on the canvas and what are you thinking? What are you going to create next? What are the next layer of
Oh,
paints that go on the canvas?
I love that. So on the canvas currently is I'm really clear on my services. And so I have 3 different ways that people can come in with the brand consulting. And then I have 3 different ways that people can come into the podcasting. So for example, with podcasting, they can come in with one-on-one. And that one-on-one is from conception. So we just thought about a podcast to now going live. And then I teach you and off you go. The second is one-on-one. Either the podcast is live or I'm helping you go from conception to live plus monthly producing, etc. The third one that's just got on the canvas and I've been talking about with you in the group is a podcast course. And that's going to be self-taught where they're going to go along on the journey, but it will help them go from conception to live and give them resources on how to create the podcast name, all those pieces. But I did want something that was a more approachable price point. And so that's on the canvas. The 4 contractors are on the canvas. I think right now I like that paint color. As 4, they feel good in the sense of just that synergy. And it's interesting because I've shared with you and the team that right now I feel really good there. And I want to keep on doing what's on the canvas to be able to create possibly another canvas that's to invent something, to create possibly another company and business based off of it. Because when I got into this, I just knew deep down that I loved it. I could service people. There was a need for approachability to getting online. The work I used to do and a lot of the work that I see out there, it's really complex. It's a lot of funnels, just a lot of paid approach versus I just wanted to come from that organic branding. I just felt that what I was doing with this could help me support another invention or company or some sort of that. I think I have another canvas. Like I almost completed my first one and then I'm going to start a new one.
Yeah, interesting. So that's good because I think some people would get their services or product and services right. So the book, The E-Myth, deals with somebody who has a bake shop and they get the cupcakes right, they get the recipes right and what the store looks like, and then they decide they're going to start building more stores. In your case, it sounds like you're thinking that's fun and good and we're serving people, but the passion or next thing might be something not completely different, but something different. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
We can create in that way. Entrepreneurs can do that. Yeah.
One thing that I want to note is that I learned early on about shiny object syndrome, and I do find the value in it. And I do find obviously that it's not valuable. And so one of the things when I was making this is for the first year to 2 easily, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I know this is happening, but like, what's the systems behind it and the process? And I would say in this last year, thanks to you and the team and Business Builder Way, I'm just very focused. I don't believe I have that shiny object syndrome versus I want to kind of keep it there. And I'm not even going to start on that canvas until it kind of makes sense that where these are fueling and they are, but making sure that that's just a fueling machine and just to create space for something else.
As a business builder, you have been in the Friday group that you're in. You've been saying, I'd like to develop a different stream of income has been a thing that you've been thinking and talking about.
And I think the feedback you guys gave me was incredible because I was thinking outside of my business when truly it can be in my business for now. And then if it does become an extension, like some of the team members have Airbnbs, etc. But not to say that it has to be mine, but the podcast course is another stream of income. It's not my one-on-one effort. Yes, it will take a lot of effort to create it, but it's something that will be another kind of stream. So that helped me kind of think inward versus outward yet. Speaking of kind of just the building blocks and just building up on the canvas, I loved podcasting so much when I started, but I knew that was not my low-hanging fruit. It was going to take time to build. And social media management was my low-hanging fruit. And I was able to create some income from that. And then the branding was there. Right now, I'm at probably about 30% branding, 30% podcasting. And I would love to, by the beginning of Q1, be closer to 60-40 and then possibly 50-50, because with the other stream of income, I think that's going to help with that.
Yeah, nice. So who are you when you're not working and building this business?
It's funny because when I built this in 2019, I had just gone through a ton of loss, and I had no business getting into business, but isn't that always the story? And what I found out during that was that I didn't have any hobbies. And so I'm not even kidding, like not one hobby. I worked and I worked out. And people could say that working out is probably a hobby, but I moved to Colorado in 2020 and February 2020, actually. And once I got settled and the world kind of opened up a little bit more, I started tapping into hiking, paddleboarding, all of the typical Colorado things that I did not move here for. Truly, everyone's like, "Oh, you moving there for the skiing?" I'm like, "Nope." Hiking? I'm like, "Nope." They're like, "Why are you going there?" I was like, "I want to explore it." And yes, I have family out here, but I also wanted a state that, would maybe bring this out of me, but I wasn't putting all my eggs in a basket. So truly, I mean, it's so cliche, but just getting out into just a hike, paddleboard. And I love, I'm an auntie specifically. When people call me aunt, I'm like, who are you talking about? I love being an auntie, big dog and cat owner. And I just picked up golfing. So I have a huge sports background, and then it's kind of just bleeding over into my later years. And so it's been really nice. And then I would say the last thing, I love going to concerts. So yeah.
What's the most recent concert you went to?
I just went to one last week. It was such a cool venue. It was north of me. So I'm living in between Denver and Boulder, which is called Fort Lupton. And it was this small little venue that you would never see, like it was off the beaten path in Fort Lupton. And it was called his name is Josh Ross. He's a country singer. So it was amazing because, and then on the flip side, my favorite venue here and possibly the world is Red Rocks. And so going there, it's cool to see the different extremes out here. So.
And you were mentioning being an athlete and being into sports and outdoor sports. Not only are you into sports, but you're a Hall of Famer, right?
Humbly speaking, there's nothing humble about that.
Anybody, if somebody were listening to this and they weren't watching as I started, you knew exactly where I was going and what I was going to say. You started to light up. So
I did,
humbly speaking.
Humbly speaking. I love it. It's hilarious because I'm like, yeah, humbly speaking, I'm a Hall of no. And then I think I said this to you once. I was like, technically too. My high school got it too. And I was like, humbly speaking, of course. Yeah, it was what I love about it now. So I'm 37, graduated when I was 21, 22. I love the time between because I don't think, and this is no disrespect to how I showed up then, because I worked hard, like I say, obviously solely because of accolades, even without accolades, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. And that just had to be probably like maturity thing and just, all those kind of pieces. But to go back to Kutztown, Pennsylvania and Kutztown University, it was amazing. It was amazing to experience it, see obviously coaches, former teammates, and just really reflect on what that meant to me then, what it means to me now, and how it truly, I mean, I know it's cliche, but it shaped me into the business owner I am, the person I am. It's the whole nother level of perseverance. So I always say to people, like, I didn't even really want to play. And that's why I'm conscious of that, because it sounds disrespectful to the process. And I was just in a different part of my life. I wanted to kind of progress. I didn't want that to be I didn't consciously know this. I just didn't want that to be my identity anymore. I'm so glad I did it. My mom forced me. I actually said that in my speech, but moms always know what's best. And now looking back, I'm just like, look what I created with my team when I didn't even want to do it. Like, how amazing is that? Now I want to create something and I have a team and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it was.
So you're in the Kutztown University Hall of Fame, and the sport was
soccer.
Oh, soccer. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So congratulations, and that's wonderful. So 2 more questions. One is, we want to use these videos as a tool. We're in Business Builders. I'm trying to create things that are in service to you. So if Kim Kelty, the business builder, watches this 3 years from now, let's use 3 years from now, it's 2026, and Kim Kelty watches this in 2026 and doesn't remember that you said anything like this back in 2023, what do you want to tell Kim 2026?
it's been a year since you and I have done this podcast together, and thinking of what I could have said from last year to now, like, hey, it's going to take time. You're going to always figure it out. That's something that I finally feel in the hard times, which is really awesome. Versus I can say now, like, oh, you figured it out. But it's like, no, I really wanted to work up a muscle of that when I'm even in the hard times. I'm like, Kim, you always figure it out. So as much as this is stressful, et cetera, it will be figured out. And so, yeah, I would say that to her.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was a deep question and you didn't know it was coming. So
I love it. You know, I love this.
So one other thing is, so anybody who joins Business Builders, how do you do Business Builders? How do you make the most out of being in this program? And it could apply to other entrepreneurial mastermind groups too. What advice would you give somebody to get the most out of the program?
It's a fewfold for me. One, showing up. Two, sharing. And three, accountability. And so the way that we can show up is by the meetings. So depending on where you're at, I have at least one meeting a week, and then with the team, and then you do a bunch of meetings. We have a meeting later today, with just kind of hearing from another business owner and kind of their story. I've always kind of leaned into, if you show up, it's more than half the battle. I know that's cliche, but it truly is true. And the second, sharing. I mean, you can't force trust, but until you feel that trust in this environment, which is relatively quick, being able to share it all, the good, bad, and the ugly, because that has really set me free. This group has helped me on a personal level, which does flood over into my professional level. So I was really conscious of that. And then the accountability, like showing up and sharing, then you have these people saying, hey, I knew you wanted to do this. So for example, I want to do a podcast course, and Susie on our team said, hey, I actually have a platform for it. So she knows like that we're going to meet and we're going to hold myself accountable. And if that doesn't happen by whatever time frame, at least I have people that have my back, and vice versa. Being a part of teams pretty much my whole life, it's just a formula that works. And we're not meant to do this alone, period. End of story. So
I love that you call it my team. I've not ever used that, being part of a business builder team or the Friday team. I've not used that language, and I really haven't heard other people say that. I love that you're saying that, your team. So tell us about your team.
So Loretta, she's incredible. I love her. She actually has children out here in Colorado. I just feel really connected to her. And then there's Susie. I heard this about Susie before I met her. She's a breath of fresh air, 100% times 100. Then there's Melissa, who's just like, because I still love the East Coast mentality. That is her to a T. Sometimes I think Colorado is maybe too nice. I do appreciate that though too. And Melissa's just straight to the point, shoots it out, but has a lot of love and compassion behind it. And then Jen, big fan of her, what she does, just because I'm like, that's my favorite food, salmon. And I've learned so much from her, and she's just been incredible to be around. And then Kathy, like I want to just go down to Georgia and just live with Kathy. I want to live with all of y'all, but like Kathy, I think like she's an Airbnb there. I can just go hang out there. But she's just like, everyone is I mean, I know everyone's a mother actually. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm actually the only one that's not a mother. So they've all been mother figures to me, let alone business partners, which has been really huge. So yeah. And then there's Wayne. Great. You're the team leader. And it's funny because, and I do want to point out with you, when I first met you, I was like, wow, he's the best listener I've ever had, like around, and it's incredible. And then for you to share, like that was something that you had to actively really hard, because it's hard to be that good of a listener, and you create such a great space for all of us. And then when you need to come in, you give the boom, 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 and it's needed. So that's the team.
Thanks. And it's a joy to work with all of you. If you were to give any advice to business builders out there, what would you tell other entrepreneurs, business builders out there?
I think, respectfully speaking, they don't need my advice because they're already doing something really incredible. Because I work with a lot of them and I'm like, you're doing really, really incredible. I think just kind of to piggyback off everything I've just said is just, can you surround yourself with the right people? And I think it's a hard truth when you look around to those people. And again, not right, wrong, or indifferent versus they just may not be the fit for where to take you to the next level. And so the saying, what got me here won't get me there. And that's actually why I joined Business Builder Way. I said, okay, I'm proud of where I got, but it's not going to get me to the next spot. And so really just surrounding yourself with those people that will not only challenge you, but also be there in the thick of it. I remember, and this is the last story, like they were incredible people. I loved working with them. And it was like I finally heard that message, like you are a reflection of the 5 closest people to you. And I think with the percentages, 85% of our waking moments are with our career. It may be skewed now, but I was looking around at that table and again, amazing humans, but I just knew that this was not the reflection I wanted for my future. And that shook me. And so if you're in that situation where you're looking around these people, just know that doesn't have to happen today, but you're at least aware and you can start building up on what that kind of looks like to have the people to get you to where you want to go.
And it's more fun.
So much more fun. I always thought I was fun, but then not until I started doing this work with people that are more fun than me. I'm like, yeah, agreed. It's so fun.
Good to do life together. Kim, thanks for showing up today and thanks for being part of our group. You add a whole lot of energy and wisdom, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning into the Business Builder Way podcast. If this episode spoke to you, click that subscribe button and share it with a friend. That's how this message gets out into the world. If it is helpful for us to have a short conversation, I'd love to do that. Send me an email at wayne@businessbuildercamp.com.